The mall manager rushed closer, saying, "Sir, should I call the police?" Mr. Sebastian looked up slowly, tears rolling down his face, and that was when he whispered, "No, please, don't call anyone." This was the first time the billionaire Mr. Sebastian Ashcroft cried in public. It was inside a mall in Lagos. People stopped walking. A woman holding shopping bags was surprised. Even the security man at the entrance looked confused. Because the billionaire CEO of Ashcroft Meridian Group was standing near the payment counter, his eyes red, his chest shaking, staring at one small boy who was hugging his father's leg. And the boy said in a small, clear voice, "Uncle, please, I want to say a very big thank you to you for always helping my daddy." Sebastian's hand was still holding his black payment card. But the card was not the reason he was crying. It was what the driver had done with it, and the surprise in an envelope he was holding. Mr. Sebastian opened his mouth to speak, and nothing came out. 2 weeks earlier, Sebastian Ashcroft had returned to Lagos after 5 years of building his company abroad. He was not just rich, he was the kind of rich people talked about on radio shows. The kind of rich that made bloggers post pictures of his cars whenever he moved from Victoria Island to Ikoyi. But Sebastian was also tired. Every day he attended meetings where people smiled too hard and lied too easily. People told him what they thought he wanted to hear. So when his personal assistant said, "Sir, we found a new driver," Sebastian nodded without looking. "I don't care who it is," he said, "as long as he is quiet, careful, and always on time." That was how Mr. Kwame Mensah entered Sebastian's life. Kwame was Ghanaian, tall and slim with calm eyes. He spoke softly and always said, "Yes, sir," with respect. He drove like a man who did not enjoy trouble. On the first day, Sebastian tested him. "Do you know Lagos traffic?" Sebastian asked, getting into the back seat. Kwame smiled a little. "Sir, Lagos traffic knows all of us." Sebastian almost laughed, almost. But then he noticed something. The car smelled faintly like baby powder. Not strong, just a little. "You have a child?" Sebastian asked. Kwame's hands tightened on the steering wheel for 1 second. "Yes, sir. A son." Sebastian leaned back. "How old?" 6, Kwame answered. Sebastian watched Kwame's face in the mirror. Something was hidden behind the calm, but Sebastian did not ask more. He did not care to know people's stories. Not anymore. The next morning, Sebastian stepped out of his Ikoyi apartment and saw Kwame sitting in the driver's seat, waiting. On time. Sebastian got in and began typing on his phone. They drove toward Lekki Phase 1, where Sebastian had a breakfast meeting. Halfway, Kwame's phone vibrated. He didn't pick it. It vibrated again, and again. Sebastian frowned. "Are you going to answer that?" Kwame's voice stayed steady. "It is from my son's school, sir. They will call again if it is serious." Sebastian hated distractions, but something in Kwame's tone was too careful. "Answer it," Sebastian said. Kwame tapped his earpiece. "Hello?" "Yes, madam." "Yes." "I understand." His face changed. Not panic, not shouting, just a quiet fear that sat on his skin like heavy cloth. When he ended the call, his voice was softer. "Sir, please, my son is not well. The teacher says he fainted during assembly." Sebastian's heart should have stayed hard, but a memory flashed in his mind. His own childhood, a cold school office, a nurse's voice saying, "Your mother won't be coming." Sebastian cleared his throat. "Turn back." Kwame blinked. "Sir?" "Take me later," Sebastian said. "Go to your son." Kwame's mouth opened, shocked. "Sir, thank you." Sebastian looked away. "Just drive." They arrived at the school in Surulere. Kwame ran in. Sebastian stayed in the car, irritated at himself for caring. Then he saw the boy, small, dark-eyed, sitting on a bench with a water bottle in his hands. His uniform shirt was slightly untucked, like he had been rushed. Kwame knelt in front of him. "Kofi, talk to me. Where is the pain?" The boy's voice was weak but clear. "Daddy, I am fine. I was just hungry." Hungry. Sebastian's chest tightened. The nurse spoke quietly to Kwame, but Sebastian heard enough. The boy had not eaten since morning. The school had called the mother's number too, but nobody answered. Kwame did not argue. He did not blame the school, he only nodded with shame on his face. Outside, when they returned to the car, Sebastian finally asked, "Where is his mother?" Kwame stared straight ahead, his fingers pressed the steering wheel. "She left, sir," he said. "She divorced me." Sebastian scoffed. "Why?" Kwame's voice did not shake, but it carried a cut. "Because I'm struggling to survive. She said she was tired of suffering. She said love is not food." Sebastian went quiet. Kwame added, "She told my son, your father cannot give you a good life." Then she walked away. Sebastian felt something sharp in his throat. He hated people who abandoned children. He also hated that he understood the kind of pain it created. 3 days later, Sebastian told Kwame to take him to Ikeja City Mall. Sebastian wanted to buy a new wristwatch for a big meeting. He wanted to look extremely classy. Kwame parked and followed behind, as drivers usually did. But Sebastian noticed Kwame moving slowly, like his mind was somewhere else. "What is wrong with you today?" Sebastian asked, annoyed. Kwame hesitated. "Sir, my son needs some necessities. The school also warned that they will send him home." Kwame swallowed. "I used my savings for his medicine last week." Sebastian stared at him. Then, without thinking, Sebastian reached into his wallet and pulled out his black payment card. He held it out. Kwame's eyes widened like he had been offered a dangerous gift. "Sir." "No," Kwame whispered. "I cannot." Sebastian's voice turned cold, like he was talking in a meeting. "I am not asking you to keep it. Use it here. Buy what your son needs, then bring it back." Kwame stepped back. "Sir, people will think I stole it." Sebastian leaned closer. "Do you want your son sent home or not?" Kwame's hands trembled as he took the card. Kwame nodded fast. "Thank you, sir." Sebastian watched him hurry inside the shops, and for the first time in years, Sebastian felt like he had done something good. He didn't know that in the next 1 hour, inside that same mall, Kwame would do something that would make security men wonder, something that would make shoppers scream, something that would make the billionaire CEO of Ashcroft Meridian Group stand at a counter, crying like a child. As a small boy hugged his father's leg and begged, "Uncle, please, don't punish my daddy." And when Sebastian finally saw what Kwame bought with that card, Sebastian's knees almost gave way. Because it was not just school things, it was a message. A message meant for Sebastian, and it would change everything. Sebastian was still standing at the payment counter when the mall security men arrived. 2 of them. Tall, serious, hands already close to their belts. "Sir," one of them said to Sebastian, "this man was reported for suspicious use of a payment card." Kwame stood stiff beside the counter. His shoulders were straight, but his eyes were full of fear. His son, Kofi, clung tightly to his leg, shaking. Sebastian looked at the items on the counter again. School books, new shoes, a small backpack, a box of medicine. And one more thing, a brown envelope. Sebastian's chest tightened when he saw that envelope. "What is inside that?" Sebastian asked quietly. Kwame swallowed. "Sir, please, let me explain." The cashier looked confused. "Sir, he insisted on paying for this envelope too. He said it was important." Sebastian picked it up slowly. It was light, but it felt heavy in his hand. The mall manager leaned forward. "Sir, should we proceed with the report?" Sebastian raised his hand. "Give us a moment." The manager hesitated, then nodded and stepped back. Sebastian turned to Kwame. "Explain." Kwame bent down gently and pulled Kofi closer. "Kofi, go and sit there," he said softly, pointing to a bench nearby. The boy refused. "I want to stay with you." Kwame smiled sadly. "I will be fine." Kofi slowly let go and sat, watching every move. Kwame then faced Sebastian fully. "Sir," he said, "everything I bought was for my son, except that envelope." Sebastian's voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "What is in it?" Kwame took a deep breath. "It is for you." Sebastian froze. "For me?" he repeated. Kwame nodded. "I plan to give it back with your card." Sebastian looked at the envelope again. His name was written on it. Mr. Sebastian Ashcroft, written neatly. Sebastian's fingers trembled as he opened it. Inside was a folded document and a small photo. Sebastian opened the document first. His heart skipped. It was a hospital report, from a private hospital in Lagos, dated 10 years ago. Sebastian's eyes moved fast across the page. Diagnosis, emergency surgery, next of kin unavailable. Sebastian's breathing changed. "How do you have this?" he whispered. Kwame's voice was steady but heavy. "Because I was there." Sebastian looked up sharply. "Where?" "At the hospital," Kwame said. 10 years ago. You were brought in after you collapsed." Sebastian's head began to spin. Kwame continued, "I was not your driver then. I was a security guard." Sebastian felt his knees weaken. The mall noise faded around him. Kwame spoke slowly, carefully. "You were alone, sir. No family came, no wife, no brother, nobody." Sebastian clenched the document. He remembered that night. The pain, the darkness, waking up alone. Kwame added, "The doctors said they needed payment before the surgery. Your phone was locked. Your wallet was missing." Sebastian swallowed hard. "I did not know your name then," Kwame said, "but I could see you were dying." Sebastian's eyes burned. "So I did something," Kwame said quietly. Sebastian's voice shook. "What did you do?" "I sold my motorcycle," Kwame replied, "the only thing I owned." Sebastian stared at him. "I paid for your surgery," Kwame continued, "not because you were rich. I did not know you. I paid because no one deserves to die alone." Sebastian's tears fell freely now. Kwame reached into his pocket and pulled out the small photo. It was an old picture. A young Sebastian lying on a hospital bed. Kwame standing beside him. "You survived," Kwame said. "You woke up 2 days later. By then I was gone. I did not want praise." Sebastian covered his mouth with his hand. The security men shifted uncomfortably. The mall manager stepped back. Kwame's voice dropped. "When I later saw you on television years after, Billionaire CEO, I knew God had answered my prayer." Sebastian whispered, "Why didn't you tell me?" Kwame looked at the floor. "I am a driver now, sir, not a man who asks for favors." Sebastian wiped his face and looked at the items on the counter again. "You used my card," Sebastian said softly, "to remind me of who saved my life." Kwame nodded. "I wanted you to remember kindness, the way you showed my son." Sebastian turned toward Kofi, who was watching with wide eyes. "Kofi," Sebastian called. The boy stood and walked slowly. Sebastian knelt in front of him. "Your father," Sebastian said, voice breaking, "is a hero." Kofi blinked. "Daddy is always my hero." Sebastian stood up suddenly. He looked at the mall manager. "Clear this matter," he said, firmly. "Now." "Yes, sir," the manager replied quickly. Sebastian then turned back to Kwame. "Come with me," Sebastian said. Kwame looked confused. "Sir?" Sebastian held up the card. "We are not done here." Because in Sebastian's mind, one thought was burning. If Kwame could sacrifice everything for a stranger, then what would he do next? When the world finally tested him again, and just as they began to walk out of the mall, Sebastian's phone rang. The caller ID showed a name that made his blood run cold. Elaine Ashcroft, the woman who had walked away from him when he was weak. Sebastian stopped walking. Kwame noticed his face change. "Sir?" Kwame asked. Sebastian answered the call, and the first words Elaine said were, "I know who your driver really is." Sebastian's heart dropped. Elaine's voice came through the phone, calm and sharp. "I know who your driver really is," she repeated. Sebastian did not answer at once. He stepped away from Kwame and lowered his voice. "What do you want, Elaine?" She laughed softly, still cold, still proud. "Some things never change." Kwame stood a few steps behind, holding his son's hand. He watched Sebastian's face closely. Something was wrong. Sebastian said, "You have 5 seconds to say why you called." Elaine did not rush. "I saw him yesterday, your driver, Kwame Mensah." Sebastian's chest tightened. "Where?" "At a school in Surulere," Elaine replied, "with a small boy who looks hungry and tired." Sebastian closed his eyes. Elaine continued, "You see, Sebastian, I volunteer with a charity group now. We help children from broken homes. And when I saw that man, I remembered him." Sebastian's voice went cold. "Remembered him how?" Elaine paused, then said slowly, He is the man who paid for your surgery 10 years ago. Sebastian felt like the floor had moved. Elaine added, I knew because I was there too. Sebastian's heart skipped. That's a lie. Elaine sighed. I came late, after the surgery. I saw the records. I saw the name of the person who paid, but when I asked, he was already gone. Sebastian's hand shook. So now, Elaine said, I want to meet you. And your driver. Sebastian snapped, No. Elaine's tone hardened. Then I will go public. People love stories like this. Billionaire saved by poor man. Billionaire forgot him. Billionaire now pretending to be kind. Sebastian clenched his jaw. You left me when I had nothing. Elaine's voice dropped, and I have lived with that mistake every day. Silence hung between them. Meet me tonight, Elaine said, at my office in Victoria Island, or I tell the story my way. The call ended. Sebastian stood still for a long moment. Kwame approached carefully. Sir, is everything all right? Sebastian looked at him. Really looked at him. A man who had saved his life. A man whose wife left him for being poor. Man who still stood straight. No, Sebastian said quietly. Everything is not all right. That evening, Sebastian sat in the back seat as Kwame drove toward Victoria Island. Kofi was at home with a neighbor. The car was silent. Finally, Kwame spoke. Sir, if there is a problem because of me, please say it. Sebastian leaned forward. Why didn't you ever come looking for me after the surgery? Kwame kept his eyes on the road. Because I did not help you to own you. Sebastian swallowed. Kwame added, I helped because it was right. Sebastian nodded slowly. They arrived at a tall glass building. Elaine's office. Inside, Elaine Ashcroft stood waiting. She looked different, older, calmer, but her eyes were still sharp. Her gaze moved from Sebastian to Kwame. It is you, she said softly. Kwame bowed his head slightly. Madam, Elaine turned to Sebastian, you chose him as your driver without knowing who he was. That is fate. Sebastian said nothing. Elaine walked closer to Kwame. Do you know who I am? Kwame nodded. You are his former wife. Elaine flinched. Kwame continued, I know because I saw your name in the hospital file. Elaine looked away. I did not expect to see you again, Kwame said calmly. Elaine sighed. Life is full of surprises. She sat down and folded her hands. Sebastian, I want to fix something. Sebastian laughed bitterly. You want to fix your image? Elaine looked at Kwame's worn shoes. I want to help this man, and his son. Kwame shook his head. I do not need pity. Elaine said, I can get your son into a better school. I can help you find a better job. Sebastian's eyes narrowed. And in return, Sebastian asked. Elaine met his gaze. I want the story told, properly, with me in it. Kwame stiffened. My son does not need cameras. Elaine replied, the world needs examples. Sebastian stood up suddenly. No. Elaine raised an eyebrow. You don't get to decide alone. Sebastian leaned forward. You left when I was weak. You don't get to use his pain to clean your past. Elaine stood too. Then I will expose everything. The room went quiet. Kwame finally spoke. If my story must be told, then it will be told with truth. Both of them turned to him. Kwame continued, but not for money, and not to shame anyone. Elaine studied him. You are still the same. Kwame nodded. Yes. Sebastian felt something break inside him, because for the first time he saw clearly, the real test was not money, it was loyalty. And just as Sebastian opened his mouth to speak, the office door burst open. A young woman rushed in, breathing hard. Madam, she said to Elaine, your son, he is outside. Elaine froze. My son. The woman nodded. He says, he wants to meet his real father. Sebastian's blood turned cold, because Elaine only had one son, and Sebastian had never met him. Elaine's face went pale. My son, she whispered, that is not possible. Sebastian's heart began to beat loudly in his ears. Kwame stood still, confused, his hands clasped in front of him. Elaine turned sharply to Sebastian. He should not be here. Sebastian's voice was low. Why? Elaine did not answer. She walked quickly toward the door. When it opened, a teenage boy stepped inside. He was tall for his age, slim, clean cut. His eyes were sharp and searching. Sebastian felt his breath catch. The boy looked at him and did not look away. "I am Daniel," the boy said clearly. "I am 16. Elaine swallowed hard. "Daniel, this is not the time." Daniel shook his head. "You said when I was old enough, you would tell me the truth." Sebastian's hands trembled slightly. Daniel stepped closer, his eyes never leaving Sebastian's face. "You are Sebastian Ashcroft," Daniel said, "the billionaire." Sebastian nodded slowly. "Yes." Daniel's voice dropped. "And you are my father." The room went silent. Kwame's eyes widened. Elaine closed her eyes. Sebastian felt like the world had stopped. "That's not true," Sebastian said, though his voice lacked strength. Daniel pulled out his phone and tapped the screen. "I did a DNA test." He turned the phone toward Sebastian. Sebastian stared at the result. A match. 99.9%. His legs almost gave way. Elaine spoke softly, tears in her eyes. "I was pregnant when you collapsed 10 years ago. You were sick. You had nothing. I was afraid." Sebastian looked at her, his voice shaking. "So you left? And never told me?" Elaine nodded. "I told myself I was protecting us. But I was wrong." Daniel looked between them. "I grew up believing my father abandoned me." Sebastian felt pain slice through him. Daniel continued, "But last month I found old documents, hospital records, your name." Elaine whispered, "I tried to stop him." Daniel turned to Kwame suddenly. "And you?" Kwame blinked. "Me?" Daniel nodded. "My mother told me about the man who paid for my father's surgery." Kwame lowered his head. "I did what I could." Daniel stared at him. "You saved my father's life," Kwame said quietly. "I saved a stranger." Daniel took a step closer. "You saved my family." Sebastian's eyes filled with tears again. Before anyone could speak, Daniel asked, "Why is he your driver?" Sebastian answered honestly, "Because I did not know who he was." Daniel shook his head slowly. "Life is strange." Elaine wiped her face. "Daniel, please, let us talk at home." Daniel looked at Sebastian. "No, I want answers now." Sebastian nodded. "Ask." Daniel took a deep breath. "Why didn't you look for us?" Sebastian's voice broke. "Because I did not know you existed." Silence filled the room. Then Daniel asked the question that cut deepest. "If you had known," he said, "would you have stayed?" Sebastian opened his mouth and stopped, because the truth was heavy. He looked at Kwame. A man who stayed. A man whose wife left him because he was struggling to survive. A man who raised his son alone. Sebastian turned back to Daniel. "Yes," he said finally, "I would have stayed." Daniel studied his face carefully. Then Daniel nodded once, but his eyes were not soft. "Then you have a lot to fix," he said. Sebastian did not sleep that night. The house in Ikoyi was quiet, but his mind was loud. Every room reminded him of something he had missed, years he could not buy back with money. He sat alone in the living room until morning light entered through the glass windows. When the sun rose, Sebastian stood up with a decision already made. He picked his phone and dialed Kwame. "Please come to my house this morning," Sebastian said. "Bring Kofi." There was a pause. "Sir," Kwame replied carefully, "did I do something wrong?" "No," Sebastian said. "You did everything right." Kwame arrived before noon. Kofi walked beside him, holding a small book to his chest. He looked around the large house with wide eyes, but stayed close to his father. Sebastian opened the door himself. Kwame bowed slightly. "Good morning, sir." Sebastian shook his head. "Not today." He bent down in front of Kofi. "Good morning, Kofi," Sebastian said gently. Kofi nodded. "Good morning, uncle." Sebastian smiled. "You can call me uncle for now." They sat in the living room, no guards, no assistants. Just 4 people, Sebastian, Kwame, Kofi, and Daniel. Daniel stood near the window, watching Kofi quietly. Finally, Sebastian spoke. "I asked you here because I owe you the truth," he said to Kwame. "And I owe you more than words." Kwame sat straight. "Sir, you owe me nothing." Sebastian shook his head. You gave your only property to save a stranger. I spent years chasing success and forgot the value of a human life. Sebastian turned to Kofi. Do you like school? Kofi nodded slowly. Yes, uncle. I like reading. Sometimes it takes me longer. Sebastian's chest tightened. That is okay, Sebastian said. Everyone has their own time. Kofi smiled. Sebastian stood up and walked to a table. He picked up a file and returned. This is not charity, Sebastian said. This is responsibility. He placed the file in front of Kwame. Kwame opened it and froze. It was a deed. A small house in Surulere. Kwame's hands shook. Sir, I cannot accept this. Sebastian replied calmly, You already paid for it. 10 years ago. Kwame closed the file, tears filling his eyes. I did not help you to be repaid. Sebastian nodded. And that is why you deserve it. Sebastian then turned to Daniel. Daniel, he said, I failed before I even knew you existed. I cannot change that. Daniel watched him closely. But I can choose what kind of father I become now, Sebastian continued. Not with money, with presence. Daniel asked quietly, Are you sure you can stay? Sebastian answered without delay. Yes. Silence followed. Then Daniel walked toward Kofi and knelt beside him. What is your favorite subject? Daniel asked. Math, Kofi said softly. But sometimes I forget. Daniel smiled. I forget too. We can learn together. Kofi's face lit up. Kwame watched his son laugh and felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. Sebastian turned back to Kwame. I am stepping down from daily operations of my company, Sebastian said. Not forever, but for now. Kwame looked shocked. Sir, I have spent my whole life running, Sebastian said. Now I want to stand. Sebastian took a deep breath. I want you to lead something important, he said. A place that supports parents raising children alone. A place that reminds people that worth is not measured by speed or wealth. Kwame's voice broke. Why me? Sebastian replied, Because when the world tested you, you chose love. Kwame stood up slowly. I will do it, he said, but only if I can remain myself. Sebastian smiled. That is the only condition. Later that evening, Kwame prepared to leave. Kofi hugged Sebastian. Thank you, uncle, Kofi said, for seeing my daddy. Sebastian knelt. Thank you for reminding me how to see. Daniel stood at the door with them. We will come again, Daniel said. Sebastian nodded. This house is no longer quiet. Kwame looked back one last time. Sir, he said, the card you gave me, I returned it. Sebastian replied softly, I know. Kwame hesitated. But what I did with it? Did it hurt you? Sebastian smiled with tears in his eyes. It healed me. Kwame nodded and left. Sebastian closed the door and stood still. For the first time, he felt rich in a way money could not touch. Because the greatest payment card is kindness, and the only balance that matters is the one you leave in someone's life. Thanks so much for watching. What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? Do well to let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting stories. Stay blessed.